Here to dig into the intricacies of policymaking and politicking is someone who knows her way around the White House. Daniella Gibbs Léger is the Executive Vice President for Communications and Strategy at the Center for American Progress. And prior to that, she worked in the Obama administration as the Special Assistant to the President and Director of Message Events. Daniella, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining Amplified.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I first want to give some context here. So a couple of things. I had the pleasure of overlapping and working with Daniella at Center for American Progress I was there about 5 years as a senior fellow. I started a program looking at the intersections of race and sexuality and gender and driving policy solutions to meet the needs of LGBTQ people of color. And Daniella was doing all the communicating and being the boss, as she still is there. And I have to say that as I think about the ongoing prowess of Center for American Progress, which is, in my opinion, one of the most prolific think tanks in Washington in terms of its reach on Capitol Hill, and now see the new leadership transition that has happened there with Patrick Gaspard being the new president and CEO and the first African-American to helm the think tank. I want to just pause for a minute to share with our audience, Daniella, who doesn't necessarily broker in inside Beltway think tanky kind of conversations. I want to talk about what is exactly a think tank and what does one do at Center for American Progress that makes it such a connected organization in the context of broader policy making and advocacy.
Right. So first, again, thanks for having me on and congratulations on your show. So, think tanks have been around in Washington, D.C. for decades. Some have been around for more than 100 years. And these are places where people come up with different policy ideas. There are some on the left, there are some on the right, there are some that are down the middle, there are some that focus on very specific issues. CAP is relatively new. We've only been around for about 17 years. And, John Podesta, who used to work for Bill Clinton, was the founder. And what he saw was lacking on the left was a comprehensive think tank that covered every issue, but did it from a more political lens. Because, yes, we create policy. These people are very smart. They've studied these issues for years, but policy isn't created in a vacuum. Policy is created in the political environment of Washington, D.C., in state capitals. So it was important for him to create a think tank where people could not just create policy, but have the infrastructure to get that policy and those ideas out into the bloodstream, to get them to the members of Congress, to get them in the media, and to get them to the people who care about these issues. And so that's why CAP was founded, and I've worked there now for a total of 14 years. I took a break to go work in the Obama White House. Yeah, I know. I'm a long timer, is what we like to call ourselves.
You are Cap.
Yeah, yes. It's just sweet Cap. And I think we've been really effective because we've always sort of been on the edge of communications, of advocacy, but tying that into really smart, progressive policy.
And I just want to add to that. Thank you for that description, because I know that we use a lot of jargon, and I try to, on this show, not only amplify policy ideas and politics, but try to break down the conversations that are permeating the public discourse that get away from people because we use a lot of language that doesn't make a ton of sense. Now, one of the things that you didn't say, which is also remarkable, depending on what side of the political persuasion you're in, it's a gift and a curse, that so many of the professionals at Center for American Progress, and this is an organization that, I don't know how large you are now, but there were 250 people there when I was there that were really thinking and driving thought leadership around how we move policy in the administration, on the Hill, and beyond. These are folks who are thinking about this that also do it from a place of practice, having been in the administration like yourself. You served in the Obama administration, having worked on Capitol Hill, having some, run for office and held office, thinking about, how the sausage gets made and what we can do better. And so I wonder if you can share with us a little bit about the current climate with regards to Center for American Progress and its new leadership. I mentioned that, having for the first time, given all that the Trump era stirred up in the wake of the post-Obama era and where we are with regards to structural racism, trying to drive progress in this country, talk to us about the meaningfulness of the new leadership there, including yourself that's been there for so long, and what your agenda is right now to bring about progress.
Yeah, so like you said, we have a new president and CEO in Patrick Gaspard, and I have known him for 24 years. Every time I say that, I feel like I age myself another 10 years. But yeah, we go way back, and I'm thrilled to be working with him again. And, it is a very historic moment. I say this not just because I work there, but, CAP is the preeminent progressive think tank. And to have our leader be an African-American man, someone who was born outside of this country to Haitian immigrants, it sends a message, and it means a lot. And for those people who don't know Patrick, I invite you to go to our website and watch our opening video event that we had with him, just aired yesterday. You'll get to know a lot about him. He is passionate about the issues. He is passionate about the policy, but he also understands that you have to connect those things to people. And I think sometimes that gets lost in Washington, D.C. You talk about trying not to talk in acronyms and talk in real speak. Well, sometimes when people are talking about policy, it gets a little disconnected from the people you're actually trying to impact. And so if you're always remembering, who's at the forefront, at the center of what you're trying to do, then you create your policy from there. So right now we're busy. As you mentioned, President Biden has his Build Back Better agenda, and we've been putting out a lot of research over the past year talking about how the various different policies and proposals in this bill will affect different communities, whether it's communities of color, women. We've done state by state breakdowns. It's really important for people to see themselves in this policy, to not just reduce it to a battle over 3.5 trillion or 1.2 trillion, numbers that are too big for most people to comprehend, but to say, hey, this bill actually will make it easier for you to afford childcare. This bill will make it, easier for you to afford health care. This bill will make it easier for you to go to college. You have to break it down in those terms. And when you do, the polling shows that the American people support it. So we've been doing a lot of work on the many different issues around this bill.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought up the work that you're doing to educate the public, because the power and prowess, I think, of think tanks is being able to take the thought leadership, the research, the data-driven analysis, and just the policy chops of how to drive structural change that all the wonks, as we call ourselves, who are in that policy space, all the wonks can sit and crunch data and come up with nerdy language all day long. But if we can't convince the public and make those ideas digestible to the public, then we can't move the politics, which you started out acknowledging that you got to marry the two. And so as executive vice president of communications, and certainly, over 2 decades of a career in comms at the highest echelons of politics and policy in this country, give us a sense of the challenges we're facing now with educating the public compared to maybe where we were 15 years ago, in the wake of this post-Trump hot messery.
That's a good phrase, hot messery. It's challenging. People, first of all, are very busy. So most people aren't diving into policy and the nitty gritty of what's going on in DC like we are. So there's that. And then people are bombarded with information. So to the extent that they do tune in, they're getting stuff on social media, they're getting stuff from their friends, they're getting stuff from various different news channels. And sometimes that information they're getting is false. So you have to combat all of the there's a lot of noise out there. And so trying to figure out how to combat the noise, how to deliver things in a way that people actually digest it. Most people aren't reading a 30-page issue brief, but they might read a tweet. about it. They might read an infographic. They might click on this video that seems interesting, but then might educate them about why the Build Back Better bill will help people in, I don't know, let's say West Virginia, right? So there are ways that we are always thinking about how do we take this really great work that our policy folks do and, you know, make it more digestible, not just for people on the Hill, but for people who are just out here living their everyday lives, but do care about what happens in DC, but don't have the time to really dig into the work that we do every day.
So, you know, I got to ask you, the Democrats are doing what they can, 99% of them, on Capitol Hill to move the various policies that you're talking about in the Build Back Better plan and to also build public awareness about them, to be fair. I mean, they're trying to communicate. A couple of them aren't and are holdouts and holding us up. And I'm just curious, as you broker the ideas and the politics, tell me, you know, how is CAP doing with its movement on Capitol Hill? And do you think that we're going to see anything get done? Because right now we're doing a countdown. I mean, we're doing kind of a scorecard here, and we haven't really won much yet, despite having both houses in Congress. So what are y'all doing, and do you expect that we're going to see something before the end of the year?
I certainly hope so, and I do think it's possible. You know, we did pass the recovery, I was about to call it Recovery Act, going back to 2009, but the American Rescue Plan was passed, right? You know, and that was a huge investment to help us with dealing with the effects from the coronavirus. Look, there are some people who have some differences of opinion about the Build Back Better plan. But at the end of the day, we're talking about Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, they agree on the majority of things. There is more that unites the Democrats around these bills than what separates them. And I know that it's more interesting for folks to talk about the fight, and that's all that's getting the coverage. And sometimes we and other people in media, like, we add to that, right? Because that's interesting, palace intrigue. But, you know, when you look at what Joe Manchin supports, like I said, 75, 80, 95, 90% is what the Democratic Party supports. So I think no one is going to be 100% happy, and that's what happens when you have to compromise. We're not going to get 3.5 trillion. I hope it's not going to be 1 trillion. It's going to be somewhere in between. But whatever it ends up being, it will still be the most significant investment, you know, in the American people in decades. And that's going to be a really important message to deliver. People are going to be disappointed that they didn't get everything that they wanted, but I am hopeful that we still are going to get a pretty great bill, a good infrastructure bill, and really start helping the American families who are hurting right now.
Daniella, we need to take a quick break, but we have lots to talk about, and I want to dig into some of the politics of the moment and take a look at Virginia when we get back. My conversation with Daniella Gibbs Léger continues next on Amplified. Keep it right here. Democrats are starting to scramble ahead of next year's midterms. But they better buckle up these next 2 weeks, because voters head to the polls in Virginia on November 2nd, and depending on what happens there, it may show how dire the situation is for the party all across the country. Democrat and former Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe is holding on to a razor-thin lead ahead of Glenn Youngkin, the Republican opponent who's been endorsed by Donald Trump. Daniella Gibbs Léger is back with me, and we're going to parse through what we need to keep an eye on in the Virginia governor's race and whether Virginia is the first bellwether race for Democrats. Daniella, thank you so much for sticking with me. I'm trying to remember, did you ever work for Terry McAuliffe?
Oh, I sure did. I think that's where we first met.
I thought you did. I thought, yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. Daniella has like some inside track here. She knows this man very well and has worked with him. Yeah. Tell us, you know, I think it's really interesting. So for people who aren't following what's happening in Virginia, former Governor Terry McAuliffe is now running for governor again, several years after he held office. And I would love it if you break down what all has been going on in Virginia and what the dynamics of the race are, because he is raising a ton of money and outspending Glenn Youngkin by millions of dollars, but still, you know, the polling doesn't show him that far ahead. So what's up in Virginia right now?
So I would say, you know, polling in Virginia is notorious for always showing it very, very close. And then, you know, at the end of the day, the Democrat has won the last couple of races. So a lot of my friends, and sometimes myself included, have been, what's going on in Virginia? And then I'm reminded that, like, the Monmouth poll that just came out, literally the same poll had showed it tied between Ed Gillespie and Ralph Northam. Ralph Northam went on to win that race by, I think, 7 or 9 points. So that is not to say that former Governor McAuliffe has this wrapped up in any way, shape, or form. You see that they're bringing out the big guns like Stacey Abrams, you know, like Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Barack Obama.
But I need him not to dance. Tell him to stop dancing, please. Like,
okay,
no. Rhythmless nation, no.
I mean, you know what? Bless his heart. Bless his heart. But yeah.
When he wins, then we turn up, you know. Yeah.
But I will say this. I think there's a lot going on in the race of Virginia, and maybe there might be some things to extrapolate to the National Party, the National Democrats. The one thing I will point out is Glenn Youngkin is running really heavily into this fake critical race theory nonsense. And I think that Republicans are really going to they're going to continue and amp this up in the midterm elections. You will see them running on social issues, again, trying to make this thing that is not taught in high schools, it's taught in college and law school, a boogeyman for cultural fears, and really trying to bring out like the Trumpy base that they need to win primaries and what they think they need to win their election. So I do think that they will look at this race regardless of if Glenn Youngkin wins or loses, and I think he will lose, but because it's so close, they will say, hey, I think that we might have something here. So I would expect to see people using this, and so Democrats better get really smart about how they combat this. And it's not going into like some deep philosophical conversation about critical race theory. It's about calling it out for the BS that it is.
Yep, and the Republicans are absolutely practicing their messaging in this race for sure, getting ready for 2022. But here's the thing that's really interesting to me that I think Democrats need to deal with, and you can walk us through kind of some of the history of how we got here, is that Virginia is now, I wouldn't even say it's a bellwether state, really, because Virginia has been moving pretty solidly blue over the last decade, and it's because there have been years of work and organizing on the ground to shift the legislature there so that, you know, Democrats could start to win and take over the state ledge and then be empowered to move some things. We've also seen just a demographic shift in that state. The suburbs of D.C. have expanded, and those voters tend to be more liberal in the exurbs, if you will, of the city. It ain't the deep, ugly red South in the entirety of the state anymore, and the Republicans know this. They scared, right? They're freaked out always about demographic trends. But in terms of the electorate, what do you expect us to see with regards to turnout? Or I should say, what do you hope that we see, and what do Democrats need to see in terms of turnout this year, which is such an odd off year, right? Like, you know, it's hard to get people to turn out in 2021.
Exactly. It's like an off year election, right? So it's and this is what's making some Democrats a little nervous, is that when you poll on enthusiasm, the enthusiasm seems to be more on Glenn Youngkin's side than Terry McAuliffe's side. But, you know, the Democrats of Virginia have been building a really great turnout operation over the past several years. As you mentioned, the demographic shifts that have been going on, where people are leaving the rural areas or moving to the exurbs and, you know, suburbs in bigger numbers, and they tend to, like, their voting patterns tend to shift once they move to these areas. So if they can turn out that vote, you know, get people to do early voting. I forget exactly what the laws are in Virginia when it comes to early voting, but get people to turn their ballots early and really focus on those urban turnout centers, the Fairfax counties, you know, the Richmonds outside of Richmond. Then I think that Democrats will have a good night in Virginia, but they really can't let their foot up off the gas. Like, they have to keep pushing and keep reminding people that despite the fact that Glenn Youngkin doesn't look like Donald Trump, he doesn't sound like Donald Trump, and he wears this dumb red vest everywhere, doesn't mean that he does not support everything that Donald Trump supports.
Well, and, you know, but before we go, I just want you to touch on this. I think that Terry McAuliffe has acknowledged that Biden's dip in popularity at this point is absolutely impacting him because he is running on a Biden agenda and Build Back Better, et cetera. And I wonder, you know, how do you think that that's going to play out much, what's happening with this administration? Will that also aid or, you know, sink the hopes of his Virginia gubernatorial race?
You know, I don't think it will have a huge impact. I mean, would it be better if Democrats could get their act together and pass this bill before the election? Sure. But in Virginia, like, Democrats and voters, they have things that they could look at their state to make a decision about these two people. Terry McAuliffe was a governor, and he was popular, and he got stuff done. Ralph Northam, for all of his issues, he got a lot of progressive policies done, and people were happy with the jobs that, Democrats have been doing. So run on that. You as a governor can't control what's happening in Washington, D.C. So let that be what's happening over there and focus on what you're going to do for the people of Virginia. And fortunately for Governor McAuliffe, he has a good record to run on. Glenn Youngkin has nothing.
Well, we will keep watching this. The election's coming up in a matter of days at this point. Daniella Gibbs Léger with the Center for American Progress. So glad to have you on Amplified. You have got to come back and keep dishing with me about all the things going down in D.C. Appreciate you.